Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and this morning it's my pleasure to review a book from a friend of mine who is William Sidney Robinson, W. Sidney Robinson. It's this book here. It's called Muckraker. It's got a subtitle, The Scandalous Life and Times of W.T. Stead. You can see a picture of him here in a relaxing mode. Britain's first investigative journalist. Now, on the back, you've got a few little comments about him. There's a picture of him, actually, here, which you might like to have a look at. And this has been a very well-researched book by Mr. Robinson. There he is. And you've also got a very useful index at the back. The book is a narrative book, as you can see here, with nice little chapters in it, looking at the whole of his life. It's attracted a great deal of interest. Not surprisingly, in May 2012, the book has been given an excellent review in the Sunday Times. That review is by Dominic Sandbrook. It's also had an excellent review in the Daily Mail at the end of May from Bell Mooney, which I think has also assisted. And it's got its financial clout, if you like, from the Wall Street Journal. And that, again, that's a longer review, which I've seen on the web. Now, we've written a review, my wife and I have written a review of this book, and we've called it a crackingly good biography of that pernicious scribe who perished on the Titanic. There are two things of interest. The 100th anniversary just passed of the sinking of the Titanic, which is one thread, and the Leveson inquiry, and all the problems at the moment concerning investigative journalism and all the little things they get up to. So this book is very interesting from all aspects. And I liked Ian Hislop's comment, a radical, a maverick. Well, Ian would like that, wouldn't he? Now, what we say is this: by the nature of their trade or profession, if you prefer, journalists report present events that are later recorded as history. All too rarely, however, they have any of the swashbuckling journalists of the fairly recent past become noteworthy historical figures themselves, but there are notable exceptions. And you've obviously must have heard of Stanley's famous trek in search of Livingstone. But if you've never heard of W.T. Stead, believe us, you have now, and you will definitely want to hear a lot more thanks to Robinson's superlative biography, this amazing character born in 1845 and of course alas died in 1912. He's described variously as Britain's first investigative journalist, as well as radical, reckless, maverick, Cromwellian saint, and yes, muckraker. Editor initially of the Northern Echo and later of London's then prestigious Pall Mall Gazette, William Thomas Stead raked more muck than most, all with the noble aim of setting the world to rights. I'm not going to go through a lot of the detail, which is well worth reading in this book, but there are some quite interesting things he got up to. The question is, what would Lord Justice Leveson have made of William Thomas Stead? Well, what indeed? The publication of the biography of this muckraker of the past coincides, of course, with the Leveson inquiry, and it makes timely and unputdownable reading. Strictly brought up as a home-tutored son of an erudite Presbyterian minister, he raged against the injustices of the day, and of course he did a number of things which were really quite inappropriate, frankly. But there again, that's what made him the man he was. One of the questions you might find interesting is, should scandals be hushed up? Headlined another of Stead's articles some years ago, a question which in the age of the super injunction confounds our modern judiciary, we possibly might suggest, in these days, as well as crusading journalists and editors who are threatened by the mighty with all kinds of retribution for invading their privacy. Now, Stead's crusading zeal was inspired by a number of influences, and he was in fact influenced by the pious editor's creed, penned not too seriously by the American poet James Russell Lowell, who defined the perfect newspaper as a Bible which needs no translation. the open volume of the world upon which, with a pen of sunshine or destroying fire, the inspired present is even now writing the annals of God. Well, we moved on a bit from there. Stead's subsequent fame eventually diminished into notoriety, and he secured an invitation to lecture in New York, and that's when he boarded the Titanic, and obviously met his death at the centre of one of the 20th century's most tragic and pivotal events. After giving his life jacket to another passenger and helping women and children into lifeboats, he was observed standing alone in silence on the edge of the deck, never to be seen again. One of the tragedies of the Titanic disaster is that Stead did not live to write about it, and that would have been fascinating. I want to thank Robinson very much for this book. He shares all of these views that he's managed to collate and put together in a very well written and researched tome, and there's a great deal more in the all of the little footnotes and references. Many of the issues raised are pertinent to modern journalism, and those perennial controversies which still surround freedom of the press are still with us, and they're continually threatening it. We shall see what happens this year with Leveson. Thank you to Mr. Robinson. Muckraker is definitely one of the reads of the summer. Thank you. Bye-bye.